Hello and welcome to BORG Solo Session 4. So it's been a while since I put out my last video. It's been a while, but I'm back. And today we'll be venturing through the Valley of the Unfortunate Undid. But first, there's a couple things I need to cover. Firstly, I got the official bookmark from Alfred Valley. So this is my home printed version. We don't need it anymore. So get that out of here. We got the official version of the Portents and Curses of the Prince of Gorse. So thank you to Alfred Valley for sending that over. Let's see here. We also have some stuff we need to cover. Particularly that in the last episode I failed to mention that finding out the armor and the morale, the HP, the armor and the morale actually gives you the special of the creature, which is that skin contact causes D4 damage. So whatever the case might be, he might be covered in acid, or he might have spiky spider thorns, or whatever the case might be. He will deal us D4 damage if we come into skin contact with him. So that's something to keep in mind while attacking this creature, or when it is attacking us. Okay, so and the last thing is, normally I will just straight up use the travel rules from my supplement here, but instead of doing D6 monsters from here, what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm actually gonna make it somewhat special. So what I have here is a printed out sheet. This is a list of monsters from Bestiary by Jake Milner and Ben Jones. It's a fantastic book. It's a BORG supplement, and I would highly recommend it. There's a bunch of creatures here that I thought fit in with our current adventure, so I numbered them. We might encounter them if we're traveling through the valley. I left 6, 7, and 8 blank, but I think what I'm gonna do is that if I roll up a 6, 7, or 8, I'm just going to roll on the existing list here. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the plan. So without further ado, let us start. So we're going through the Valley of the Unfortunate Undid, and we are currently on the outer perimeter of this valley. So maybe we're kind of crossing through, and we have to make our way through to the lair, whatever it may be. So we're gonna put a cross here for the lair, and we're gonna have to travel a bunch through the valley in order to get there. Now, we know that we are on a time limit of sorts, so I'm going to say that we're going to have to go through 4 rolls. So these 4 rolls are basically going to be the 3rd day, the 3rd night, the 4th day, and the 4th night. And that is how we're going to try to get to the entrance of the lair. Now, if we need to rest, we'll be taking up 1 slot, so we'll be wasting more time. So we can only rest twice maximum, basically. And if we rest twice maximum, we're gonna have to finish up the dungeon very fast. Otherwise, we are at risk of being cursed. So that's currently the plan. So we're going through this valley, and let me just write this down. Valley of the Unfortunate Undid. So this adventure is going to be segmented up, like I said, into 4 sections. So okay, there we go. So we're gonna have to go through those points in order to get to the lair, whatever it might be. Let's actually start rolling and see what we find on our first encounter. Hopefully we don't find anything too dangerous, but we will see. So let's roll us a d20 and see what we get on the first encounter. 12. So it seems to be nothing. And I think that's only because we're at the outset of this. As we go in, I think there might be more and more dangerous stuff. So I might or might not actually reduce that roll over time. I might make it a d12, then a d10. I think that might be a good idea, actually. Let's do that. So this is going to be a d20. This is going to be a d12. Then there's going to be a d10 and a d10. So the final 2, we're definitely going to encounter something. So, let's see here. Let's roll a d10 3 times to find out what we find. We don't necessarily find an encounter, but we definitely find something. 6 is going to be haunted. 2 is going to be mirage. And 3 is going to be many corpses. So there's an illusion of some kind of many corpses, haunted. Ah, okay, so it's kind of like ghosts. There's a lot of ghosts around this area, which makes sense, given that we're in the Valley of the Unfortunate Undead. I'm gonna say that these corpses are of some kind of profession, so we're gonna find out what profession that is. 2, so there are a bunch of prophets. Okay, let's see. Can the prophets actually tell us anything, or are they connected to our journey in any way? So again, we're gonna roll that d10, and we're gonna see, are they connected to our adventure? And if so, how? 1, curse of the flesh. So these are people who have come here seeking some kind of answer for their curse, and have instead only found death. So even in death, these ghosts are malformed, they are filled with lumps, and they are screaming out in eternal agony. And I think as Galt and Jark are trying to get through, I think each one is going to have to pass a presence check. Otherwise, they're going to get accosted by these ghosts. These ghosts are not necessarily trying to harm them, but they might want something from them. But before we forget, let's actually mark off a day on that. So Galt is first going to do the presence check. Let's see what he's going to get. 17 and a 7. So that is going to be a weak hit. So let's just keep that in mind. Let's see for Jark. Jark is going to get a failure. Okay. So I think they're going to grab onto Jark, and one of them grabs onto Galt. Maybe 2 of them grab onto Jark and one of them grabs onto Galt. And they're screaming about something. They want to be avenged, I think. Technically speaking, Galt's best friend is a skull, right? A skull called Turn. But is Turn actually a skull, or is it a ghost living inside a skull giving him directions? I think it's likely that Turn himself is actually a ghost. So we're gonna ask that as a likely question. So that's gonna be a 16, yes, okay. So Turn is some sort of ghost. I think he's going to leave his skull at this point and parley with these folks. So Turn is going to explain to these folks that Galt and Jark are just trying to help them, and that they will be traveling through this valley in order to try to get to this spider demigod, and that they will be able to perhaps end their curse if possible. Are they able to render us any sort of help is the question, right? And if so, what kind of help? So I think it's likely that these ghosts will be willing to help. It's just whether they can or not. Can they? I think it's gonna be a 50-50. Are they able to help, or are they just gonna leave us alone? Are they able to help? No, they are unfortunately unable to help in any way. I think they are, however, going to leave us alone. But this is interesting because Galt has never seen Turn come out in ghostly form from his skull before. And as we know, Jark used to be comrades with Turn at some point. They used to fight together. Jark is also a little bit off-put by this. So I think as the ghostly form of Turn goes back into the skull, it rattles a bit and then stays dormant. And Galt and Jark kind of look at each other. Jark, for the first time, actually believes what Galt is saying. I think at that point, he might have had doubts. He might have not truly believed that Galt actually was listening to some being and thought it was all imaginary. But at this point, Jark now believes what Galt is saying. So that is one area done. We're now going to go to the next area. And this time is going to be a D12 roll, which means that there's much more of a chance for there to be something dangerous happening. And we are going to actually roll that during the night. So let's see what happens. Oh, that's gonna be a 12. Oh, they're being very lucky. So there's still nothing especially aggressive or anything especially harmful that they can see that's happening. But they are going to find a location of some sort still. So if it was a 10 or over, they wouldn't find anything, immediately. So let's see what the trait is of this area. 6 is haunted again. Okay, that's the same. 9 is going to be a monument. And 4 is going to be a trap. Let me actually note this down. So this was where the ghosts were, right? I'm just going to draw a ghost right there. And here is where there's some sort of monument. What is this monument? I would like to know. So I'm going to actually roll on our Portents and Curses of the Prince of Gorse and figure it out. It's going to be a 2. A Rain of Blood, Conflict, Threat, and Victory. So perhaps it is someone being slain, or maybe a Rain of Blood. I think it's someone who is kind of like, I'm seeing like someone who is beheaded and his head is being carried in his arms, perhaps. And is this kind of statue. And perhaps this person was a villain of sorts and they're commemorating this villain's death. So let me just draw that out. I think they might be perhaps kneeling down like this. And there's a statue of some kind, so that's the first thing that pops into my head. So we're gonna go with that. You come across this kind of statue on a raised kind of monument, and we know that this is a trap of some kind, and we know that it is also haunted. So are they gonna be curious enough to try to approach it? I think they are. There's something alluring about this. What is the nature of this trap, I guess? What is the nature of this trap that they now find themselves lured to? I'm gonna roll that again on here. Yep, 5. Let's see, the Salt Circle, Protection, Possession, and Refuge. I think in the eyes of this man, they can see several large jewels, basically. And the idea is that if they take out these jewels from this man's head, they will suffer a consequence of some kind. Because they are protecting this treasure, right? I feel like that makes sense. So that's what we're gonna go with. So the question is whether they can resist their temptations. I think that Jark is not going to care about this. Gelt, I think, is going to care. So he's gonna have to resist his temptations. And let's see if he's able to resist taking those jewels. We're going to do a move here. So we're gonna do 2d20, presence of 1, dr12. He's gonna have a weak hit on that. Okay. So I think what's going to happen here is that he succeeds, but with some kind of catch. I think he takes one of the jewels and part of the consequence befalls him. So what is the consequence? I think something is going to come out of this creature's neck when one of the jewels is taken out. So we'll figure out what that is right now. Let's actually use my oracle this time. So let's see here. What do they find as they take out the jewel? 43. Survive. Okay. That's already not very good. 80. Survive ally. I think survive ally. Survival of ally. So I feel like there's still a ghost within this statue. And I feel that it reaches a hand out of its neck and tries to grab for the skull. So a hand starts crawling out of this, a slimy, ethereal hand, and immediately tries to grab at Galt's skull. Not his skull, but Turn, his skull friend. So they're gonna try to grab at Turn. Galt is gonna have to try to do an agility check, and his agility is basically a 0. So we're gonna check if that happens. Oh no! That is gonna be a failure. So what happens is that the hand reaches out and grabs at the skull and puts it on its own body. And what does this actually do? So I think what happens here is that like it's haunted, and there's now 2 ghosts kind of living amongst this this kind of like statue. So this is now going to be Turn on this statue of a body. think it creakily stands up. And it's still holding its own head, right? And one of the jewels is missing because we know that Galt took it out. But it's still holding onto its own head. And I think the head kind of speaks to us. What is their reaction towards us now that it's been able to grab the life essence of our friend Turn and used it to its advantage? What is its reaction towards us? So we're gonna roll that right now and see what happens. 5 and a 4. I believe that is going to be actually pretty okay. 5 and a 4 is 9. Almost friendly. So, almost friendly. So this might not be a bad thing actually. So we might have an ally on our hands. So it kind of stands up and it greets us. I think Gald is like, give us back our friend or you're dead. And this creature, well, what were they in their previous life? Let's actually generate out an NPC for that. Let's see. What kind of NPC were they? 54. Extravagant. 46. They're an extravagant doctor of some kind. Oh, okay. So maybe... Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe they had like a kind of like robes on. Something like that, I think. Extravagant, huh? Something like that, perhaps. And they were an extravagant doctor when they were alive. And that's possibly why they know so much about ghosts and the undead. I think being a doctor in this kind of time means that you have to deal with death quite a fair bit. It's not like nowadays where it's just a flu or a whatever. They have to deal with people dying on them all the time. So they are perhaps familiar as well with occult practices. I think that's what I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with a doctor who is familiar with some kind of like occult practice. And yeah, they are quite friendly towards us. So let's see. Do they have any relation to our request? I think they definitely do. So this time I'm not going to roll a d10. I'm just going to roll a d6 and see what might be their relation towards us. 2. Curse and the Spider. I think that this statue, this being, Curse and Spider. I think what happened was that they knew about Rebar and they actually tried to spread the news about him. They are kind of an intelligent creature, and I think the spider version of Rebar was able to rally perhaps some of the villagers or some of the creatures and kill this person and turn them into stone. Yeah, I think that's the case. So they have a common enemy with us. Day 1, the spider version of Rebar did as well. So this is actually good for us. I guess the question now is, how are they gonna actually look, our new ally? Let's come up with a name. So Turn and D4 and D8. Turn and Birder. Okay, Birder. Almost sounds very similar to some other word. So I think what's gonna happen is that we have... Yeah, I think what's gonna happen is that they're going to share now the same body, this skull and this head, and it's going to be like a stone kind of deal. So like it's gonna be a stone head and a stone body, so I'm gonna have to make sure there's some cracks and stuff there as well. So like that. And they have extravagant robes on as well, so we're gonna have to draw those in as well. Okay, looks like my iPhone, which I'm using as a camera, is constantly connecting and disconnecting. So we're going to have to actually kind of like cut this session short after I finish drawing this. Again, somebody with extravagant kind of robes. I think will look something like this perhaps. Let's give them some patterns as well. So we now have an ally on our hands. Turn, and this is going to be Turn, and that's going to be Birder. And I think we're just going to combine their names. I think Burn is going to be... We're just going to call them Burn for short, like that. And I think we're going to come up with some stats for them in the next episode. But like I said, I seem to be experiencing technical difficulties at the moment. So unfortunately, today is going to be a bit shorter of an episode. But we did make it through some of the Valley of the Unfortunate Undead. And we were able to find in this strange land some kind of companion that we are now terming Burn. And I think that's going to be it for today. So we'll use this to fill out the rest of their stats and stuff. But for now, that's the end of session 4. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe and all that YouTube stuff. Comment if you liked it as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.